Another research field in which the effects of the power of touch are explored is, and there's a lot of money in play, there are really huge and influential journals today, is consumer psychology. And to be honest, I'm not that happy with the fact that there's so much research on how to make us spend more money, on how to make us consume a lot of shit we don't need. Nevertheless, there is this research, and I think we should know what is going on in this research field. So therefore, let's take a look at the empirical data from this research field. And let's start with the influential study by Hornig, published in 1992. The title of the study was Effects of Physical Contact on Customers' Shopping Time and Behavior. The study was published in the journal Marketing Letters. Participants, but they did not really know that they were participants, were 286 customers of a store for books and office supplies. And when these customers entered the store, they were approached by a confederate of the experimenter, and they were given a 4-page catalog specifying items, prices, discounts, credit, etc. And this created situation was the ideal moment to touch the customers. So half of the participants were touched on the upper arm when they were given this information brochure. The results of this study were quite impressive, and that's probably the reason why this study became very influential. Those participants who were touched on their arm for only about 2 seconds stayed much longer in the shop. They stayed for about 22 minutes, whereas the participants in the control condition stayed only for about 13 minutes. But the touched customers did not only stay longer in the shop, they also spent more money, and they also rated the shop better. So really impressive results for such a little intervention of just touching somebody for 2 seconds. And even though in some following studies, such big effects, such a huge impact of touching somebody was not observed, there are some more studies that tell us that touch in sales contexts can be very effective. For example, look at the study by Smith, Gear and Willis, published already in 1982. In this study, a scenario was used that might feel quite familiar to you. 136 customers of a supermarket were approached and they were told, hey, we have a new product here. Would you like to try a free sample of our pizza? It's a really new product and it's made with natural ingredients. And during this request, half of the participants were touched on their arm, whereas the other half was not. And this touch on the arm did not only lead to a higher willingness to test the pizza, it also led to a higher willingness to buy the pizza. The exact numbers were 19% in the control condition. So in this condition, the people were only asked to test the pizza, but they were not touched. But when they were touched on their arm, the buying rate was almost doubled. It was about 37%. And the results of this study were replicated in a bigger study in the year 2006 by the scientists Giga and Jakob. This study was bigger because they had much more participants. They had 1,096 passers-by in an open-air market. And again, they used touch to convince the participants to test a product, and in their case, the product were olives. And touch indeed again led to a higher compliance rate to test the olives. And again, just like in the previous study, it led to a higher sales rate. In the control condition, only 10% were willing to buy something, whereas in the touch condition, 17.6% were willing to buy something. And what's interesting about this study is that they found an effect of sex. That means that when women were touched by men, the effect was stronger. But on the other hand, when men were touched by women, the effect was not that strong. And the reason might be that in France, which is a high touch culture, it's almost usual that women are more touchy and that they touch a man on the arm. So maybe this was not that effective because it was perceived as quite normal.